people living in houses they can't afford, and driving cars they can't afford, and buying things with credit cards they can't afford with money they don't have. Now, they address the issue of greed and discontent, which is behind the world in every sense, because unregenerate people are sinners to the core, as we well understand, and one of the manifestations of that sin comes in the area of greed and covetousness and self-indulgence. If you were to break it down a little bit and ask how we got to the place we are today, the answer would simply be because we have a world full of sinners. We have always had a world full of sinners, and that will never change. And one of the manifestations of sin is materialistic greed. The Bible makes that very clear. People are never satisfied with what they have. So the first thing that contributes to the economic revolution that we're facing in America is materialistic greed. People are never satisfied with what they have, no matter how much they have, no matter what they have. They want more than they have, and they want different than they have. This creates the opportunity then for people to feed their discontent, and therefore to offer them things that really are the products of their temptation. They are the products of their sinful desires. Now, in order to give people everything they want, you have to give them more than they can afford, right? Because if they could afford it, they wouldn't be wanting it anymore. They would have it. So in order to accommodate materialistic greed, you have to come up with a system that lets people get what they want when they can't afford it. That's called debt. That's called debt. So you have people living in houses they can't afford, and driving cars they can't afford, and buying things with credit cards they can't afford with money they don't have. That's debt. And you have a system that feeds that. Let me tell you just one illustration of how that system works. If you were to go back, say, 40 years, and you were to track a graph, just imagine a graph in your mind, and you were to show the rising rate of wages, say the average wage, start with the minimum wage or the average wage, wages would go up like this to the present time, say 2006, 2007. The line would be a steady increase like this. If you were to put a line above that showed income, corporate income, the lines would go like this. The wages in the income would go like this until about 20 years ago, and then the income would go like this. And so the gap between what companies earn and what they pay their employees is so massive that you can give 10 million, 100 million, 50 million bonuses to the people at the top of the food chain, and the gap is just massive. Now, this puts the people who are the fat cats in the catbird seat. Why? Because the people down here want what they can't afford. How are they going to get what they can't afford? Not only have you become rich, but now they want more money, and you won't pay it to them. So they borrow the money that their wages will never be able to pay back. And you not only take money from them that they really worked to produce, but when they need it, you give it back to them in a form of a loan, and you become even more and more and more wealthy. This is one product of greed. It isn't just that people on the low level, the hardworking folks in the world who are greedy and want more than they have. The people at the top are greedy because sinners are greedy, because human nature is driven by greed. But never, at least in my understanding of American history or of any kind of economics, has there been such a massive, massive gap between what is earned by corporations and what is paid to the employees, so that the people at the top can throw around bonuses that number in the multiple tens and hundreds of millions of dollars and hand them to people who are walking away from failing corporations while all the employees lose their jobs. It's a bizarre situation. And then when you create the desire for them to have more and they don't have the money and you loan it back to them, it's a double sin against them. No wonder this kind of thing irritates people. This is the kind of stuff that leads to revolution. The French Revolution, you remember? The royalty was filthy rich, and they came to Marie Antoinette and they said, the people have no bread. And she sarcastically said, let them eat cake. There was such a massive gap between how the people in the palace lived and how the people in the street lived that it led to the French Revolution. This is colliding greed at the low level, greed at the upper level, and the chaos that greed generates is becoming obvious to us all.